Welcome. Happy to have you at the picnic table again from the Maniac Guy, coming to you here from the beautiful state of Maine once again. Thanks for joining us. And so what I'd like to talk about today is I've got this is actually a Pietta, and it's a replica that I bought from Cabela's probably 6 or 7 years ago. It's a replica of a Colt 1860 Army. So this was kind of one of the originals where it all began. They say God created man and Sam Colt made us equal. And this is a replica of kind of the implement of that statement. So this is a 44 caliber. Like I said, it is very heavily used. You'll see that in some of the pictures that we'll be putting down later. And it's kind of a neat replica piece of our history anyway. Love this firearm. So hopefully you enjoyed the shooting sequences that we put out there earlier to kind of show you a little bit about the operation of this. It's a very viable system. So a little bit about this firearm. Like I say, it's a 44 caliber, and here in a little bit we'll get into the loading and what that looks like, and you'll be able to see what the balls look like and all that. It's a pretty simple takedown. It's got a brass front sight. The rear sight, as you'll notice, there is no back strap on this. Colts didn't originally have them. You can do some research on that, but I believe it was actually Remington who first came up with that. But either way, it certainly wasn't Colt. And so the Colts for a long time were made like this, with absolutely nothing on top. So it's an open cylinder on the top. So as you notice, there's no traditional rear sight, but that's not how these guns used to be aimed. You didn't use them with a traditional mounted notch rear sight. So what you have here, and I love this sound, by the way, just listen for it. That's the coolest sound in the whole world, and I hope you could hear that on the video. The sound of these old revolvers coming back to full cock. Where you're sighted is actually right here, and you'll be able to see it in one of the pictures that I'm putting up. I got a real close-up of it. I don't know if you can kind of see that. See if my cameraman, good, cool. So that rear notch is actually your rear sight. So it's literally attached to your hammer. Kind of a neat fact there. The revolver itself takes down for cleaning and loads by putting it on half cock, like so, which frees the cylinder. So once the cylinder's freed, you can rotate it around, putting the balls in and bringing this loading lever right here down. So this is how you load the balls in. Again, I'll kind of do a fast forwarded loading sequence so you guys can see what that looks like. So to take this firearm down for cleaning, pretty much, and again, this is a little boogered up because I've had this for a long time and it's seen a lot of hikes. I don't have a firearm that I don't hike in the woods with and shoot, and really all different kind of weather conditions. This has actually been out in a little bit of a drizzle a few times, even though that's not always the best for black powder. So you pretty much just back this screw out right here. You pull out this little wedge pin, as they call it, and this whole front part of the firearm just rocks right off, and then the cylinder comes off, and then you've got those three pieces to clean. So again, this is a replica of the 1860 Colt Army, made by Pietta in Italy and imported. So that's pretty much all I have to say about this. There is a kind of a neat piece of history that Pietta's done a great job in really duplicating, I guess is what I'm looking for, and that's on the actual cylinder itself. And I don't know if you'll really be able to pick it up. But that on the cylinder is actually, we good to go? Sweet. Is actually a naval battle. And right there, pardon the little bit of rust, but black powder does tend to do that tiny bit of pitting here and there, and I clean this religiously every time I shoot it. But right there is actually what it says. Is it says engaged 16 May 1843, and this is a naval battle that's depicted. Kind of funny for a 1860 Colt Army, right? Funny to think how the Colt Army had a naval battle on the rolled onto the, or etched in the originals onto the actual cylinder of their 44s. Now there were different ones. There were some that had depicted different things as they were made for different units, but this by far was the most common. And the reason why that's on there is because it actually it symbolizes, and it's a depiction of a famous naval battle. And there was a Texas Commodore. His name was Edward W. Moore, and he defeated a superior fleet of Mexican warships. There were more of them, and they were bigger ships. And he was in charge of a fleet in Texas. And when he led the Texas ships to victory, apparently Edward Moore actually that was a very instrumental part in Texas winning its independence. And so just kind of a neat piece of history that they did a really good job in following through on these, because that was on a lot of the original Colts as they were carried by a lot of people, you know, everywhere, all across the nation in the Confederacy, but you know, this goes all the way back to the war for independence in Texas. So yeah, just kind of a neat piece of history there. One of the other kind of cool features that I'll mention really quick is in the old school, traditionally, if you're going to carry one of these and you're going to carry, you know, so to say, a hog leg, what would happen is you would have a 6-shooter. You would actually only carry 5 rounds, because you would leave the 6th cylinder empty. Because what you don't want to have happen is you don't want to be dropping the hammer and leaving it on a loaded chamber with a cap, because none of the safeties used to be in place. As you see, there is no safety on this weapon. Well, these kind of reproductions, most of them have, and again, I tried to get a good picture of it, but it's hard to get exactly. But there's a small nipple in between each one of the actual nipples where you put your caps on. So in between each one, so in that little place on the cylinder, there's another additional small nipple that extrudes. And there's, in conjunction with that, there's a notch that's in the hammer that comes in right here. So you can actually load all 6 rounds, because how you put this weapon on safety, so to say, is by dropping the hammer, and if you listen for it, it just dropped into place right there. So it locks the cylinder on that steel nipple that comes out in between these 2 nipples that you're going to have your firing caps on. And so in this way, it's perfectly safe to carry all 6 rounds in your 6-shooter, which is kind of nice, so that you don't actually have to, because you know, it is a little process to load, but I think it's a little piece of history every time you do. So all right, there's a little bit of information. There's a little bit of a view, I guess, of a video from my 1860 Colt Army replica made by Pietta. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the shooting. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. As always, we sure enjoy making it for you. We are again going to run, we tried it with the high point in the last video, and I kind of, you know, I like the way it turned out. So we're going to run a little bit of music with some close-ups scrolling across the screen at the end of this video. So please feel free to stay tuned and watch that. And yeah, so this is where I say goodbye. So from the Maniac Guy up here in Maine, thanks for watching. Thanks for chilling with us and being here at the picnic table for another conversation. And yeah, until next time, have a good one. Bye now.